Russell Westbrook is playing some of the best basketball he's played in years. The Nuggets are now 10-2 with him as a starter, and I'll speak for both of us in saying we're not just surprised by this, we're shocked.
They're like jaws on the floor shocked about this. I mean, all the Russ fans probably aren't shocked, but man, we figured after his run with the Lakers, I thought dude might be out of the league at that point, and he has completely revitalized his career.
Before we start talking about how Russ revitalized his career, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. We'll start this video talking about when Russ was traded from Washington to LA in the 2021 offseason. I think it's important to note Russ was pretty good in his lone season for the Wizards, averaged 22 a night, led the league in assists with 11.7 a night. That's a career high. One of my favorite NBA stats ever as well. He's the all-time leader in triple doubles for the Wizards. He only played 65 games for them, had 38 triple doubles, and the next highest is Darryl Waller at 15. John Wall had 7 career triple doubles.
So he's just lapping dudes.
Yes, just one season, killing that record.
So yeah, Russ at this point, he wasn't 2017 prime MVP Russ anymore. He wasn't quite at that level, but he was still seen as a very good player when the Lakers, of course, traded for him. They sent out Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, the 22nd pick in the draft that year, who ended up being Isaiah Jackson, who got rerouted to Indiana. Now, when the trade was made, I think people were a little bit confused by the fit. And in hindsight, all those people were absolutely correct because it didn't work. And Russ was definitely the scapegoat during his time in LA, but I mean, he is a guy who needs the ball a lot. You also got LeBron who needs the ball a lot. You got AD who likes to play inside. Russ, of course, is a great slasher. So if AD's down there, that, clogs up the lane, makes it difficult for Russ to attack the basket. It worked with Paul George in OKC because Paul George is fine to just sit in the corner and shoot threes. He can space the floor out. But him and LeBron together and AD, it just didn't work. But they were still the second best title odds in the NBA that season behind the Brooklyn Nets. And we, of course, got that infamous graphic where it's can we just skip to the NBA finals? Just, man. One of the biggest, misses in terms of predictions in sports history.
Yeah, this whole Lakers team, it deserves its own video. Of course, you, signed Melo, you had DeAndre Jordan, just a ridiculous team. Rondo was there still.
You signed, the 2010 NBA All-Star
yes,
team.
They literally did. So we'll keep it brief, but it just did not work from the get-go. You lose your first 2 games to the Warriors and Suns. LeBron then gets injured in his 3rd game. He misses 10 of the first 16 games. They're 8-8 by the time he comes back. And even when their whole big 3 was healthy, the team just was not good. Russ specifically just did not have a good season. His worst season, at least since his sophomore year. He was 5th in turnovers per game, which is crazy because dude was the 3rd option on the team. Didn't shoot the ball very well, which, to be fair, Russ has never been a great shooter, so that was kind of expected. Specifically, there was that one game against the Knicks at home. He has a corner 3. The crowd is urging him not to shoot it.
Yeah.
He takes it anyways, bricks it. 80 bails him out with an and one. His defense wasn't good either. I mean, yeah, definitely what you said. Russ was the scapegoat for this team, but he also didn't play well either.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen the Lakers in the years since Russ left. He was a problem, but the Lakers have problems just beyond him. Lakers go 33-49, miss not only the playoffs, but the play-in entirely, which is, honestly, it's unbelievable. I thought at the absolute worst, they would still make the playoffs, but 33-49 for the team that had the 2nd best odds to win the title in the entire NBA. I mean, one of the most disappointing teams in NBA history. And of course, Russ, he had a player option for $47 million. Probably didn't like his odds on the open market, so he's you know what, let me opt into that one. And the Lakers, I remember this offseason, they were we're not gonna trade him. I'm not sure they had very many great offers to trade him to begin with, but they were saying no, we're gonna try to make it work with Russ. He'll have a full training camp, we got a full offseason with him, let's see if we can make it work. And they started the season 2-10.
Yeah, they were just absolutely awful. Russ specifically had some bad moments. He went 0-11 from the field, scored 2 points in their 2nd game against the Clippers. Next game against the Blazers. He shoots 4-15, scores 10 points. We, of course, remembered as Blazers fans, we started the season really well. This was one of the wins we got. Like,
he had that one dumbass shot with like, he was trying to go for like a 2-for-1 or something.
I don't know what he was thinking. Like 30 seconds left, early in the shot clock, he bricks a mid-range jumper. Braun and AD, you can see them like on the edge of the screen. They're both like, what is going on? Putting their hands in the air.
The Lakers announcers like, Russ, no.
Blazers eventually win that game. And yes, the roster was probably the worst possible fit around Russ. But like we said before, he wasn't playing well there. And a big part of the problem was he too often tried to be like OKC Russ and, you know, have his moments and still come up big late in games like that Blazers moment. And that's one thing you gotta give him a ton of credit for nowadays. Like for the Nuggets, a lot of times he defers to Jokic because he knows Jokic is the best player in the world. He defers to other guys because he knows, you know, maybe me hucking up a three-pointer isn't the best shot here. I'll give Russ a ton of credit for that. He's bought into his role, but back then that was still the early stages, and I think he was still having a difficult time like coming to grips with, yeah, I'm not like an all-star player anymore.
They did eventually move him to the bench, which, you know, he performed better in, but he still wasn't great. And eventually before the deadline, he was sent to the Jazz in the 3-team deal that netted the Lakers D'Lo, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley. And personally, I remember telling you this around this time. I was like, when Russ gets bought out eventually by like either the Lakers or if they trade him and he gets bought out, like I thought his NBA career was over. Like I genuinely thought, I was just like, what other team would want him? Like it hasn't worked in LA. He's a player that's not going to age particularly well. Like I genuinely thought, I was like, when he eventually leaves the Lakers, that's it for him. That's the last we're going to see of him in the NBA.
Yeah, but the Clippers picked him up partly because they had no point guard basically on the roster. They tried John Wall earlier. That didn't work. And at least initially, it was a tough start. They go 0-5 in his first 5 games there. But eventually things got going. He was a starter for them because, like I said, they basically had no point guard. And he had a solid end to the season. He had that one game against the Grizzlies, gave you 36-10 to road win. But in the playoffs, the shorthanded Clippers stood no chance against the Suns. Paul George was already out the entire series with a knee injury. Kawhi tore his meniscus. He only played 2 games. So Russ, by de facto, kind of became the first option. And he put up good numbers, but still kind of inefficient. And to be fair to him, like the entire defense was now centered around him when he had Paul George and Kawhi.
He did all he could. Kept them in games that they honestly had no business being in.
Yeah. So that brings us to last year. Russ took on that 6-man role, but clearly the Clippers, kind of like the Lakers, were just not a great fit for him. The Clippers bring in Harden, so another player that likes the ball in his hands. So now you have Paul George, you got Kawhi, you got Harden, you got Norman Powell, like a ton of high usage guys. Still though, Russ was one of the better 6-men in the league. He did have that tough end of the playoffs though. Like game 1 against the Mavericks, pretty good, 13 points on 5-8 shooting. Finishes the series shooting 8 of 42 the rest of the way.
I feel like that's a little bit worse than a quote unquote tough end to the series.
I'm trying to be nice. You know, this is a positive video about Russ.
Yeah, fair enough. Clippers fall to the Mavericks in 6 games. And at this point, like, we're pretty low. I mean, we've always been pretty low on Russ as a player, if we're being honest. Like, we've always not been the guy's biggest fan or whatever. But, like, you know, I just felt like he wasn't the same athlete he used to be. And the guy's never had a jumper his entire career. So, you know, if you just sag off him, crowd the paint, there's always, like, viral images on Twitter of dudes, like, you know, sitting way back on Russ, like, just daring him to shoot. Like, he could still be a contributor if he came off the bench, but he's not a good defender. He's not a good shooter. So how much could you really trust him, like, come playoff time, you know?
During the offseason, though, Russ signs with the Nuggets, a move like a little bit back. We made a video about how the Nuggets were struggling and Jokic was balling out. We called it desperate, and damn, we were super wrong on that, just completely wrong.
Well, it's been a good move, but I think it still was kind of desperate.
Okay, in some ways, yes, it was kind of desperate. Our logic was, you know, Russ had struggled in that playoff series, of course, like, wasn't at the best point in his career, and then the Nuggets were losing guys who just lost KCP, had lost Bruce Brown the season prior. They needed something, and initially we kind of looked right. I mean, Russ struggled to start the year. He scored just 6 points on 2 of 10 shooting in their opening game against OKC. Follows that up with 2 points on 0 of 8 shooting against his previous team, the Clippers. But something just flipped in mid-November, because ever since then, Russ has been balling out. He's added so much to this Nuggets team they didn't have in seasons prior. They're first in fast break points. Last year they were 17th. Russ himself doesn't get a ton of fast break points. He averages less than 2 a game. game, but he's constantly just getting the ball up the court. Jokic will find him. He'll push the ball. He'll find a guy like Christian Brown, which is something the Nuggets just didn't really have in years prior, just with Jokic pushing the ball up and Murray. They're first in points in the paint, and of course, Jokic deserves a lot of credit for that, but that's up from 6th last year. He just makes this team so much better in ways like they didn't have in seasons prior.
Well, yeah, they're up to 2nd in free throws per game.
Yeah.
Like, this is baffling to me. They were 29th in that category last year.
Yeah.
And up to 2nd this year. And overall, the Nuggets have just been a much better fit for Russ. Like, him and Jokic, I don't even want to know what it would have been like if prime Russ was playing with Jokic. Like, wow, old washed Russ is playing incredibly next to Jokic. Like, Jokic is a big who obviously doesn't clog the paint because he's, a threat from anywhere on the court with or without the ball. You got Jokic leading the league in 3-point percentage. That leaves room for Russ to cut to the basket. If he's open, of course Jokic is going to find him because he's got eyes in the back of his head. So the Jokic fit with Russ has been absolutely incredible. The pick and roll between them two has been awesome because of just the amount of attention that a guy like Jokic requires. And, Russ is not the athlete he used to be, but he's still very athletic for a point guard. And, when they're in the pick and roll together, the defense has got to choose whether they want to, stop Russ from attacking the basket, which he's still very capable of doing, or if they want to stop Jokic from getting the ball and either scoring or finding someone else who's wide open.
Yeah, and also, Russ has helped out Jokic. He's by far the best passer Jokic has ever played with. Murray, can pass a little bit, but he's score first. Most of the guys Jokic has played with are score first, so
yeah, Michael Porter Jr. actively doesn't pass the ball.
Yeah, actively tries not to, so Russ is able to find him on some of those cuts. Like you said, in the pick and roll, they've just been incredible together. So, overall, we just got to give Russ a ton of credit because we did not see this going into this season. Like we said, we kind of thought his career was slowly kind of dying in some ways. He's completely bought into his role. He understands it's Jokic's team. He doesn't just jack up awful shots. He makes the right play most of the time. His shot selection has been so much better this year, specifically down the stretch. I don't see the shots from Russ anymore where you're like, dude, what are you thinking? Usually he's pretty locked in, making the right plays.
He's very clearly grown as a player.
Exactly. I do still want to see it in the playoffs because, to be honest, I'm sorry, Russ fans, it's been a while since he's had a truly, really good playoff series, but so far, Russ with the Nuggets, it's been an absolutely perfect fit, and we did not expect this whatsoever. So what do you guys think? Can Russ keep this up and carry it in the playoffs? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like, and hey, while you're here, check out some of our other content as well, and don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.